Ecclesiastes 12:7, they quote, then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. From reading this verse, a friend concluded that everyone's spirit returns to God whether they're a believer or an unbeliever. She said that the unbeliever in hell can never communicate with God because of not having a spirit. She asserts that the spirit can be divided from the soul based on Hebrews 4:12, and then they quote, two-edged sword piercing even to the division of soul and spirit. Is this what the Bible teaches, and what verse can explain about an unbeliever's spirit after death as opposed to a believer's spirit?
Well, the classic passage on what happens to you after death comes from Jesus. And so Jesus in the book of Luke in chapter 16 is talking about the parable, or the story of the rich man and Lazarus. I don't like to call it a parable because Jesus never gave names in parables. Yeah. So I believe it actually happened. And so you have Lazarus, who's a believer, and he ends up in a place of comfort. And you have a rich man who's an unbeliever, and he ends up in torment in Hades. And so that's the ultimate end of believers and unbelievers. As far as Ecclesiastes chapter 12, the spirit returning to God who gave it, that's exactly what happens with everyone. The spirit returns to God who gave it. When you look in the book of Revelation, the Bible talks about the fact that at the last judgment, everybody's going to be standing before the throne of God. Now, there's a judgment for Christians, and that's called the Bema Seat judgment, and that's a judgment for rewards. But in verse 11 of chapter 20 of Revelation, it says, then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. That's God. And there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God. And books were open, and another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. Then death and Hades, it's talking about everybody at that point who was dead, and everybody at that point who was in Hades, in the grave, were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, and anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And so you have everybody standing before God, and then the ones who stand before him and don't have a relationship with him, the ones who are not found written in the book of life, he takes them and he does what he wants with them. And what he does with them is he casts them into the lake of fire. And so both things happen. In Ecclesiastes chapter 12, the spirit returns to God who gave it, and then God does what he wants with the spirit. And in this case, what he does is he casts them into the lake of fire. I don't know. I don't believe that there's a separation of the spirit and the soul at the last judgment. That's not what's indicated there. We're told what's going on, and so these people are standing before the Lord. In fact, Jesus talked about the fact that that there was going to be a resurrection of the unrighteous. So not only are they standing before God in a spiritual state, they're standing before God in a physical state, in the sense that they have a resurrection body just like Jesus did. Jesus talked about this in Revelation, or in John chapter 5. He was talking to the Jews, and he said, you believe that you're going to be raised from the dead. I'm going to be the one who raises you from the dead. And he talked about the resurrection of the just and the resurrection of the unjust, or the resurrection of the righteous and the resurrection of the unrighteous. And so there's a resurrection. And so their spirit and their soul are put back into a body that's a resurrection body, looks like just like the ones we have. And then in that resurrection body, they appear before God, and then God takes the guy and he casts him into the lake of fire. Body, soul, and spirit is what takes place there, is what it looks like. And again, you have a narrative there that tells you exactly what's going on. And so, yeah, no, I wouldn't say that the soul is being separated from the spirit in the passage. So.
All right.